Recording in progress. Recording in progress.
Okay. Same. Okay, Jay, can you hear? You see? Okay. First, I want to thank the Chevron Meridian Shiur and also our Chaveim for sponsoring Ilan Nishmas Esther Tova Bas Eliezer Ben Yom HaKohen and the Sham Shav Nalin. Hopefully, we shall have Simcha and Nachas and Bracha.
Amen.
Everybody here. Okay. You able to hear me? It's all right? Okay, good.
Yes,
Fine. You say that? Okay. We're learning Meshivas Nefesh, the parish of Meshiv Nafshi. We're on page Ayin Zayin. On the bottom, Yeda Shakol Me'ashamayim. So what we were talking about in the last year, something which is potentially confusing for those who are outside the world of Amunah. I mean, every Jew is inside, he just doesn't know whether he is or he isn't. But it could be confusing. Because in this Torah we learned from the Tzaddik, we learned from Rabbi Nachman that when a person goes to a nefila, the words are in the Likutei Moharan, Yeda Shemina Shemayim. We should know that this is Mina Shemayim. So we all understand how that can be taken and misused and abused in terrible ways. A person can Chalila, can do something that's against the Ratzon Hashem and can say this is Min HaShamayim. And Hutra Haritzu, and then all of Yiddishkeit is over. And yet it is a very big yisod in all of this from HaKadoshim that there is such an inyan, where there's that place where Yediyah, Hashem's knowing and man's choice, man's Bechira, that place where those intersect and we don't understand. So what we're learning about is to be careful with what this means, that Yeda Min HaShamayim. And there are ways to test oneself. There are ways to test oneself whether you're in a place where you could actually grow closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu and strengthen your Avodas Hashem and your observance of Torah mitzvahs with this idea that everything's Makadosh Baruch Hu, even our failures on some level are from Makadosh Baruch Hu. So we're in the last paragraph on page Ayin Zayin. Neiroz Divrei Simen Zeh Yuvnu Karoi Mishim Mevakesh Be'emes Listois L'Avodas Hashem Yisborach L'Loi Amas Los V'Sei Anas L'Svachik V'Apidusha. What he's essentially explaining here is that there is a disclaimer that must be attached to this Torah. It's not found in the original Meshivas Nefesh, but there really is a disclaimer that there are people who should not be learning what we're learning right now. And this would not be a good thing to put on some sort of a video, even though I know it's part of within the context of what we're learning, but to isolate this could be very, very dangerous. Because this truth of Hashem's involvement in our failures in life as a means of bringing about to his chachis and his chaskis and our avodas Hashem, when we reach a certain place and we're taking our avodas Hashem for granted and we become complacent, one of the tachsisim, one of the strategies kivyochel of the Bari Olam, and how he brings us to a place of his chachis is by sometimes pulling the ladder out, sometimes pulling the ladder away from us, and the person is flat on his back, and at that point he could either decide to climb to a higher place than ever before, or he could just chalila walk away. So this is the nafki mina, that walking away or that staying in the avodah. So he explains that this what Rabbi Nachman is revealing, that we find in this form of the tzaddikim. It's in the Zohar Kodesh and Kisveri, and all the tzaddikim talk about it, and they in a very veiled and hidden way. In the form of Ishbis, it's all over. In Reb Tzaddik, it's all over. But most of this farm, it's very, they're very careful at tzaddikim, obviously, with this. But it's only for a person who's, this first sentence, without Amos means excuses. A person can find excuses, always can find excuses. Why is it that I didn't go to shul today? Why is it that I'm not making brachas? Why is it that I'm saying Lashon Hara? Why is it that I'm not careful with Shabbos? Why is it that I'm looking at things that I shouldn't be looking at? And the first two to get blamed, or three, are your father, your mother, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not necessarily in that order. It could be whatever the order is, but parents are to blame, and teachers and rebbeim also make their way onto the list. But parents for sure, and the Rebbeinu Shalom. But a person who mavakish be'emes liskos ba'avodas Hashem lo amaslos, with that, and not a person who's looking for a way out, looking for excuses. We say anais and the justifications. Lisrachik me'kedusha, all kinds of justifications and rationales why he's getting further and further away from kedusha. Kimisha enu nichlal b'choisam the kedusha. Rabbi Nachman, we learned this earlier in the Sefer. This is from Chav Beis. Rabbi Nachman there speaks about choisam b'soy choisam, a person who is not in that place that's called choisam de kedusha. What's choisam de kedusha? The seal of kedusha. L'inyanenu, choisam de kedusha, we learned, means when a person is in a place that, regardless of what Hashem throws his way, and regardless of what he goes through in life, he continues on his makabel ol malchus shamayim. That's the Aleph basic Yiddishkeit. In other words, the choisam, the seal. There, Rabbi Nachman speaks about the meaning of choisam b'soy choisam. To be sealed into Yiddishkeit means that if Chalila, I lose my parnasa today, Chas v'sholom, I lose someone that I love today, it doesn't kihuzeh change my schedule of Shachas Mincha Ma'ariv, of benching, of learning, of davening, of being a Jew. I'm chosum in that chesima of kedusha. That doesn't mean you're not sad. Of course you're sad. There's a mitzvah of aveilus, Chalila, if somebody passes away. But it's not like I once told you that I got this call. I told you this. I hope she doesn't ever listen to these things. She should be very hurt. But maybe that's part of her growing up. This is a while back when this person called me, and it was around 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. Somebody crying, and I asked, "Who are you? What happened? What's the matter? What's the matter?" And she's crying. I said, "What is it? What happened?" So she said shared some sad news. She said that her grandfather passed away. So I'm sorry to hear that. I asked her, how old was your grandfather? She said to me that her grandfather was 93. So I said the thing that any of us would say, that Ashreich, that you were zeicher to have him for a long time, and you had to enjoy his being with him for a long time. And then this was the sentence that I've shared over the years that I can't forget. She said, how am I supposed to daven tomorrow morning if Hashem could do this to me? She said, I said, your grandfather's 93 years old. How could you daven tomorrow morning? I never had any grandparents. I'm davening. I plan on davening in the morning if you let me sleep a little bit. I didn't say that. I plan on davening in the morning. Like you can't. You're having like a theological religious crisis over the loss of your night. Like when it said, I mentioned back then, like when Rav Yosef was Echet Tzaddik when he was Nifter. How old was Rav Yosef? Like 104. And it said in the Jewish newspaper, Klal Yisrael shocked by the sudden petira of Rav Yosef. Sad, but I'm not shocked that a 104-year-old person left the world. Shocked. And to get up to daven tomorrow morning, he said, how am I get? She said it. How could I daven if Hashem? I love my Zaidi so much. How could Hashem take him away? How could I daven tomorrow morning? So this Torah is not for her. It's not for her. She should have a Yeshua and to be Gaber and so on. The chasima that Rabbi Nachum is talking about, when he's saying, I'm telling you this truth of Pnimius HaTorah, the deepest truth of Torah, but I'm only telling it to you for a person who's chasam b'chaisim to kedusha, that you're a person that is of tremendous emunah, and that you are in that chaisim of kedusha. Kimisha enu nuchlal b'chaisim to kedusha. Because if a person is not in that chaisim to kedusha, in other words, if you're not a person that is committed to Teres Moshe, Teres V'chsav, Teres V'alpeh, Shulchan Aruch, and you're not a person who is seeking to get closer to Hashem, but you're somebody who's trying chalilah to look for an opening of how to get out, then this is not for you. It's just not for you. And then the way that you should look at your failure is that you're lo yuslach. That's all. It's completely yours. Take credit for it. You messed something up. You did something that was wrong. It's all yours. Don't point fingers to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's all yours. But then how could it be that it's like this, it's like that? So then we don't have an answer to that. So he says, if you're not a person who's in that chasima of kedusha, and your whole aspiration and goal in life is not kirvas elokim, to get closer, to get stronger, and to grow, then it's shaykh that the yerida is a yerida mamish. So everybody's wondering. It says in Pasuk Vayerid Yehuda. It says before the Ma'aseh that he did with Tamar. So there was a strange story, a strange thing that happened in Parshas Vayeshev. Everybody knows when they did with that. When we learned that when we were kids in yeshiva, the Rebbe didn't teach it. He didn't, and we knew that must be something really good, right? So it was a strange story, but it says Vayerid Yehuda, and yet we don't find that Yehuda is being criticized for this. We don't find that Yehuda is criticized. Chazal say there's a malach amunah latayva. Chazal say that there was some sort of a malach that pushed him to do this because the Rosh wanted to bring out Mashiach Tzekenu. Mashiach comes and the zivug of Yehuda and Tamar will come out parrots, and from parrots will come out and parrotsi. David Malcham Mashiach will come out from this. So there's a malach amunah latayva. So imagine if you say this medrash over like to a classroom of high school guys. That there's a malach, it's called a malach amunah latayva. And this malach pushes people to do a virus. So that everybody look at each other and say, this malach, I know this malach. I have an ongoing relationship with this malach because I'm constantly being pushed to have these titles. But yet, when it says Vayerid Yehuda, when Yehuda went, we don't find that he's criticized, and this Indian was one of the tachbulas that Hashem Yisbarach, one of the strange ways that Hashem Yisbarach fears developed, that he brings Mashiach out from these strange places, from Lot and from Rus and from this whole parish of Tamar. That's how HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes the Or of Mashiach Tzekenu. No, that's a separate conversation. We've discussed that many times over the years, but it's a mitzvah. But the whole inyan of Yehuda, we can't be masig Yehuda's kedusha. The whole inyan of Yehuda is kedusha. And the whole inyan of Yehuda is his chaskas. And to get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's the whole inyan of Yehuda. So Chazal Megala that this was something that was beyond Yehuda's choice. This was something that Yehuda could not control. And the Reb Tzadok speaks about this in Sikhs Tzaddik in different places. And the Sfarim talk about this regarding particular like Shimshon Hagiba. What happened with Shimshon? What happened with Shaul HaMelech? Chazal say about Shaul HaMelech that he was Ein Boi Doifi, means that he was the closest that a person could be to perfection. Ein Boi Doifi, this is about Shaul HaMelech. But when you read in Navi, you're reading about a person that's he tried to kill David HaMelech many times, a number of times. And there were other questions that when you read the story of Shaul HaMelech, you could ask. What happened with Shimshon HaGiber? Also, Mishichmo Ramayla, Shimshon HaGiber Tzaddik Yisad Elam. You or I would not have been chosen to be a shayfet, and he was a shayfet, and he was Tzaddik Yisad Elam. and there was something that happened that we can't understand. So we see throughout Tanakh and in Chazal as well that there are stories that Chazal reveal to us and that Tanakh reveals to us about tzaddikim that were in situations that was not a matter of bechira. It was on Haggis HaYichud that the Baruch Shem fears developed with certain things, and there's Yediyas Hashem that this has to come out in such a way. So for when it says Vayerid Yehuda, it was not a Yerida Mamish. It was Yerida for the purpose of building Beis David, of building Malchus Beis David. Vayerid Yehuda is for the purpose of building Malchus Beis David. And again, we can't be Masig Yehuda's greatness. He was in that place. He was in that place of the Chaysim to Kedusha, Ish Kaddish V'Noira, and he was in the Chaysim to Kedusha. And there was a Malach that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent, and that's how HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought about the union of Malchus Beis David. But a person who's not Nichla B'Chaysim to Kedusha, there's Chazak brought an Eisen Liskos the Ki Mater by us Shach Shayvid he read the Mamish Shlotiviyah Aliyah. But there aren't people who have Yeridis and they remain on the floor. Those the Yerida is a Yerida, and it stays a Yerida, and the person Chalila gets lower and lower. We see that not everybody uses the Yerida Litzar Aliyah. Hashem Zbach has many different cheshbonos with everybody, different people. But what he's explaining is that when a person remains in that state of Yerida, and he does not use the Yerida as an incentive to grow, to become greater, to pick himself up, Sheva Yipol Tzadik V'Kam, to pick himself up, so then he can't point the finger to HaKadosh Baruch. There's no excuses. It's Yerida Mamish. Shalot Aliyah was also loymelo. Shekol Yerida Sem Yashamayim. It's also to tell this person that this is Min Hashamayim that happened to you. It's also, you're not allowed to say such a thing. Ki Yimtze B'Zeh Amaslo Lazav Kedusha, because that will only confirm his feelings, and will give him reason to remain in that state of Yerida and to Chalila, to go even further and further away. I'm going to say something. Whatever you're going to ask me, I'm going to say I don't know.
I don't think so. But here it is in the Sefer. So what are we supposed to do with the message? Meaning here it is being taught to us to use.
That means that mitzidenu, every single time in life that you and I experience Yerida, we should think and daven how to make this into an aliyah. What can I take from this to become better? That's what you take. And then, if we do tshuva, and we become stronger, and then we can look back and say, Oidcha Hashem ki enafta bi. I know that you were behind that. Now I know. Not while I'm lying there in a mess. You did this to me. No. When I'm back higher than ever before, then I can look back, and this is the tzaddik. Then I can look back and say, now I realize that all of that was a hechetimtza to help me to become greater. But you can never ever say it when you're in that dark place. That this is just a hechetimtza to you can never say such a thing.
So the Rebbe is trying to give us consciousness to know that when you're going through something difficult, you find yourself in that place, to use it as a catalyst.
To use that as a catalyst to become greater and to ascend higher.
Why can't you say that Hashem did this now? Why can't you say that B'Shas Ma'aseh? Why do you have to wait until you're up to?
If you're in the Chaysim de Kedusha, and even now you're determined, I'm going to push forward. Perhaps you can. It's dangerous. Perhaps you can. That should not be one's machshava b'shas ma'aseh. When you're going through a hard time in life, of course, you should always Hashem is iti, etzli, imi every second. But when you botch something up, you do something wrong. So then, one can say, and should say, I know you want me to grow from this. This is not what you want for me. I know that this is something that's disappointing to you, Rabbi Shalom, and I'm going to do my best to make this into an opportunity to grow, to become stronger. But to stop with the sentence of saying, you brought this upon me, which is very dangerous. And this is all the Rishonim they use. It's a very, very dangerous. It's a very dangerous thing to use, to speak in such a way and to think in such a way. So, Avi, I'm glad that you asked that. So the tachlis is the tachlis of why did Tzaddikim reveal this. So the tachlis is with the disclaimer for those who are serious, and to use it as a way of growing, every nefila as a way of growing, and then Hashem will show you that this was I orchestrated. I'm behind all of this. I'm the one that arranged all of this. I'm behind it. It's me. It's all me. Right? Like if you're some Jew today that's driving around somewhere in Tehran, because there are Jews driving around in Tehran as we speak. It's unbelievable. And if you're some Yid that's driving around in Tehran, like with a missile in your trunk or something, or a drone, and you're wondering, like, how did I end up in this place? So Hashem would say to you, you're on a shlichus, shlach lecha, you're on a shlichus to carry out a very, very important mission to protect Am Yisrael, to save Jews, to protect Am Yisrael. Right? When a person's machshavos are always in that place of what is the purpose of this Yerida? Because going to a place like that is a terrible, terrible thing. But the tachlis of this is to make big tikkun. And a person should always look at his Yeridis in that way. But not to blame others, not to blame HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to take responsibility. This is something that I was careless with, I was not working hard enough on, and I'm going to use this as an opportunity to grow. And when you do, and you see that you're moving into a good place, then you could say, Oich Hashem, I want to thank you for sending me down to Tehran, sending me into that place. That I know now that all of that was for the tachlis of me becoming closer to you. Give us a look. It's a dangerous thing.
Are you assuming that? What is it if the person is like? There's no specificity to why he's there. He's a Jew. He's there. Is that the same thing as somebody who was sent there? As we know now, there was Mossad people with drones, with things that set it up. Two different.
A person, anytime that a person,
two different.
Whenever a person's in a dark and difficult place, so unless he chose to be in that place, like that he wanted to go to some place where he doesn't belong, but if a person was sent, however, he was sent, or he went someplace and it turns out to be a dark and difficult place, then it means that he's there on a shlichus. So if somebody, like I've been telling this whole week I've been getting phone calls from some of our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael who were supposed to come back to the States, asking me what I thought about them taking one of these Amman, Jordanian or Egyptian.
Yeah, they made it difficult.
Okay, to take one of these trips. And I have told each and every one of the people who called me, I'd say there are probably around 12 or 13 people I spoke to this week about this, and I answered very emphatically, absolutely not. Stay in Eretz Yisrael. Do not set foot into these places. Don't go near these places.
They made it difficult.
Jordan, Egypt. I don't know if you heard what has already happened. There's already been, there's some terrible stuff that's already happened. Nobody was killed, God forbid, but one of the Chaverim sent me a few hours, like 3 hours ago, that in Jordan there was a group of 350 or so Jews that went. 60 of them are still being held. There were talis and tefillins were confiscated. They were standing outside. People were getting dehydrated, and there were Arabs that were screaming at Yahud, 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 Jews, 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 and so on. In other words, it was not like passing through, Atlanta or something. So
That could be bad too.
So I've been saying all week long to people, why would you have? Is there an emergency? If everything's okay here, I mean, you have to get to work, talk to your boss, whatever, but don't go to these places. Everybody should come home safely. They should be back safely. Nobody should get hurt. But why?
Are those 60 people out?
I don't know. This was a few hours ago. There were 300 or so that they let through. And there were 60 that it said in this communication. There were 60 that were still waiting to get through. So now, if you find yourself in that matzah, if you're in this matzah, then you have to ask yourself, why am I here? I don't go there. But if you are there, for whatever reason, you ended up being there, when you're in a matzah that's a difficult matzah, you have to ask yourself, so what's the shlichus? So if I'm here already, then what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want me to accomplish over here? What am I supposed to be doing here? What am I supposed to be thinking in this place? Maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants me to strengthen my emunah, my bitachon. Yeah, why you decide to go, that's ready for foul. You're there. We're not going to talk about that anymore. So you get to stand there and say, boy, am I an idiot? I can't believe I did this. I shouldn't have done this. My family told me I shouldn't do it, but I was impatient. I had to go. I felt like I got to get back to work. I got to get back to whatever. So at this point, you're already here. So stop talking about that. That's not your Indian right now. Your Indian is that you are here. You should have gone. You shouldn't have gone an after minute. It doesn't make a difference anymore. You're here. So if you're here, then the avoid is why? Why am I here? It could be for different things. To give chizuk to somebody. There could be some old person here that needs my help. Another Jew that needs my help. It could be to be mechazik myself and I want to be talking, whatever it is. That's not, whatever it is. But if I'm in this place, then I have to ask myself, why am I here? And the answer is, there's a shlichus. And then, what do you mean there's a shlichus? I made a decision myself to go. Yes, you made that decision to go. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not prevent you from going. It means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought you along with that decision that you made. And now that you're here, what is the avodah that you need to work on while you're here in this place? What's your avodah? At this point, not to cry, I can't believe I did this, I can't believe I came here. Well, why I should have never have done that. I shouldn't. There's no point to that. The only point now is what could I do? What's the avodah? How to get out? How to help others get out? Whatever it is. But that's your avodah. Why you were said? Then it's a shlichus. That's all. But if you're a person, he says, that's looking for excuses, if you're going to use this Yerida as some sort of a justification or a rationale for not serving Hashem, not growing closer to Hashem, then don't say that Hashem is the one that brought you to do this. Then it's your bechira. It's just your choice. It's your bechira. And your bechira is, right now, to make a good decision. How can you use this as an opportunity to get close to Kadosh Baruch Hu? That's all. That's our avodah. How do you don't say now that Hashem took away my bechira. I didn't really have bechira. Get out of this. Daven for help. Use your own bechira to do better, to become better, to get out of the Yerida that you're in, and then at some point in the future, if there's Bez Hashem, you'll see that you're in a good place, so then you could look back and reinterpret what is it that happened to you. Why did you have to go through that? So why did you have to be in Jordan? Why did you have to be in Egypt, in such a place? Page Ayin Ches. Al kasher adam makur letzadikim. That's another very important piece of this. The person is makur letzadikim. V'nechtam b'sach harotzon alechas al pi hamavur b'divrei hamagdashim. You believe in tzadikim, and you're determined to follow the advice of tzaddik, like the advice that we're learning from Rabbi Nachman. Or whatever, whoever the tzaddik is, but you're a person that you want that, and you're nechtem b'sach harotzon lechas al pi hamavur b'divrei hamagdashim. You're in that chasima of being connected to the tzaddikim, and listening to their advice and so on. Then you should use all of these truths that are being revealed to us, including knowing the truth that this Yerida is part of how Hashem is bringing you towards something greater. And that will help you to get out of the Yerida. Because if you're not authentic, then this kind of a thought will bring you deeper into your Yerida. Hashem did it to me. It'll just take you further away. How do you know that you're nechtam b'kedusha? The answer is, and that you could use this mahalach? The answer is, I am determined to have an aliyah. And as I said before, the fellow who was here before asked, can you do it while you're there? You have to be careful with that. Your work right now is aliyah. Aliyah. But one of the things that a person who's working on this aliyah could begin to realize and to think about is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is helping me. He brought me to this place, and He wants me to become better, and I'm working on this as much as I can. A person should know that even though my responsibility is to try as hard as I can to make good choices, to do the right thing, nevertheless, if despite all my effort I have fallen, you need to know that there's another side to this. That everything is going to Shamayim. And this was the Ratzon Milamala, that you should grow from this. That you should grow from this. And again, looking to grow. That's all. The same thing that you know that if you go through some difficulty, God forbid, with health, or panasa, or whatever it might be, something in this world, in Gashmias, that you accept that Gzeira as something min hashamayim, and the Yisurim Abiyahava with love, and with shtika, and being silent and accepting. V'lamad b'tikva toiva, and to strengthen yourself with hope. La'asid shi'eti v'mashim b'zvach, that things are going to get better in the future. That tomorrow I'll have a panasa, tomorrow things will be better. To mechazik yourself, again, thinking of the future, Things will get better, mitzvah Hashem, in the future. So it's the same when it comes to Avodas Hashem. Same thing with Avodas Hashem. This is min hashamayim, and I accept this b'ahava as Hashem reaching out to me and pushing me that I should climb and become better than I have been before. And to use this as an opportunity to get closer to Hashem. Of course, we can't understand this completely. How could that be? That on the one hand, everything is min hashamayim, everything's from Hashem. On the other hand, on the other hand, it's my free choice. This is not a new question. And there in Likutei Halachos, Pasha B'Challah, there Rabbi Nosson speaks about this very, very, very amazing things. The whole inyan of Yediyah B'Chir. Ach Keshadam, what it means to mix together milchis and fleishiks. Yediyah and B'Chir is milchis and fleishiks. That's what he talks about. You have to keep them separate. That's what the whole Torah there is about in the Likutei Halachos. Pasha B'Challah. Ach Keshadam nechtam v'nichla b'skarbas l'tzadik. When a person is in this chasima of emunah and growth, and this failure is a temporary setback, and he's going to use it to grow, and he's connected to his garbas l'tzadik. This person's, the trademark of this person is, whatever it is I'm going through in life, it's a way for me to get closer to Hashem. That's the bottom line. How can I get? He's always asking, she's always thinking about this. How can I use this as a way of getting closer to Hashem? That's the Chasim of Kedusha. Then you can live with Yediyah and B'chir. And there's that. Yes, this happened to me in Hashemayim. And yes, I had choice. How could that be? You had free choice and it happened to you from Shamayim? I don't know. Because we don't know that. The Rambam also said, no, you don't have to feel bad. We don't know. I just know that this is min hashamayim, like Yehuda knew. This is min hashamayim. But I also know with absolute certainty that the reason that I was knocked down by Hashem is because Hakadosh Baruch Hu wants me to come in to use my choice now with greater ischachus, more excitement, something higher and something better and something new ischachus. Because the Ikar Avodas Hashem has to be with cheshek, rotzen, godel, longing, and so on, and rotzen. And sometimes, in order for a person to come to a place of hischachus, something new, he has to go through obstacles, and even nephilas, and falling. Ikar hanachas ruach lamayla, she is chadish b'haschola chadosha mitoches arus harotzen. And this is the Ikar nachas ruach that Hashem Baruch has. So this forum talked to us about how Hakadosh Baruch Hu has bigger nachas ruach, a person who goes to a place. Let's say he goes someplace in the Rishus Harabim, and there are things that are not good over there, and the person goes there and he's misgaber to go in a way of kedusha. That gives Hakadosh Baruch Hu bigger nachas ruach than the person who's sitting by the siddur, sitting by the sefer. It's bigger nachas ruach. The nachas ruach, all this from talk about this. The Alter Rebbe in Parashas Veschanan and in many places, all this from Hakadoshim talk about this. That the maila, in a certain way, the maila of the person who's going out into the world, because this tachlis of the world is the Yer B'Tachton. So if you go out successfully into the world and you stay in a place of kedusha and you even become stronger in your connection to Hakadosh Baruch Hu, that's a higher madrega than the person who's sitting in the world of kedusha. Because the whole tachlis is to leave Shemaim and come to this world, and that journey to this world is for the purpose of bringing something new to the world, and something new to the world is that Or of kedusha, which is a greater chiddush when it's brought into a dark place, into a place of difficulty, into the Rishus Harabim. It's a bigger chiddush. That's why by the Baal Shem HaKadosh, by the Talmid Baal Shem, they never ever look down upon a person who's working. They never look down on a working person, ever. Adarabba, the working person was always very, very much admired and looked up to in the world of the Baal Shem HaKadosh. I mean, a working person was working on himself to grow and to be, as we learned many years ago in the Maimer from the Alter Rebbe of Maim Rabin. So this is not a b'de'evid, it's a chachim. It's not a b'de'evid. To have his chadshus and his urus harotzen that a person has, the excitement that a person has when he comes to the siddur, when he comes to the sefer, after being away from it because he had to work, that is chadshus, is a mesikas, that is a sweetness, that it's greater than the mesikas that's experienced by a person who has the schus to sit in that all day long. His oiris and his chachis and the mesikas that comes with that. If you want to be a serious Avodah Hashem, it means you have to begin again and again and again, new beginnings all the time. Hashem wants us to always begin fresh and start again, new, something better. Like I said before, to start something new means not to think about how did this happen to me, why did I do this, how did I get here, I can't believe this, all those diburim. No, not about what was. The whole inyan shi'ocha ligrom le'ayfus akrivis mach lezichon ha'avish akvahiskel mispar pam le'tzah, or any negative thoughts about how could this have happened? I can't believe I'm such a terrible person. Why did I do this? All those thoughts that would cool you off from your Avodas Hashem, or that would take you away from Avodas Hashem, you're also to think such things. Absolutely not to have those thoughts. Take us forward, higher. Keep a simcha seitzayu. If we take this, what we learned in this little simon, to heart. Nimtze derech lahabas b'masim tovim. It gives us a way to increase our ma'asim tovim, become better and stronger and stronger. L'schazik tamid b'chol darchei eschazkus. And to be mischazik in all the teachings of eschazkus that we have from the tzaddikim. Because they're only written for those who are seeking eschazkus, who truly want to become better. Not for those who are looking for excuses and ways out. That's not what they wrote all their divrei chizuk for those people. Those people have to bear the weight of their poor choices and to work on that. That's all. But for those who are seeking always to get closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu, they connect to the darchei eschazkus of all the tzaddikim, to tap into all the ways of eschazkus that were taught to us by the tzaddikim. Amur Mesifei, Rabbeinu Zal, Rabbi Nachman's targets, and all the tzaddikim keep emes. Heim amitas darchei v'Hashem, because this is the true path of serving Hashem. So lemaisa, kasher adam chazak b'ritzanaisa, avodas Hashem. When a mechapes tirutzim lihipatim avodas Hashem, when the person is sincere and honest in his rotzen that he wants to get closer to Hashem, and he's not looking for tirutzim, for excuses, lihipatim avodas Hashem, to get out of avodas Hashem. As I tzarich ladash kol nefila, then he should know, and only then he should know. Shakol nefila sheyesh lo, any time that he has a nefila, hu min hashamayim. It's min hashamayim. B'shvil sheyavel eschadshus chadash b'avodas Hashem, because that's what you want. It's an opportunity for you to come to eschadshus b'avodas Hashem. So I want to share with you. This will be the last year of the Zman. So I want to share with you from one of the stories from the Beis HaMedrash of the Tzaddik from Yerushalayim, Rav Asher Freiden, Susei Gelaina. So over the years, I've read one or two, a couple of these 68 Maasiyos. So I looked into this a little bit. It's not Rav Asher himself didn't say these stories, but it's from his Beis HaMedrash, and it's with his Hashra, in others to his limudim. One of his talmidim, a few of his talmidim, wrote down these 68 stories. They're not true stories. These 68 Maasiyos, like Rabbi Nachman's stories, Maasiyos. That each one is very, 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 very deep. Each one is a limud that you could talk about a lot. It'd be just to learn these 68 Maasiyos, which I try every 2 or 3 days to look at one of them. Each one is. So I was just looking at this one today, and Hashem Yisrael sent me to see this today. I wanted to end it. What we're learning now, to share this with you. I'll read it to you. I think I once did some years ago when I first got this. I think I once read it to you, but I don't know who was there. There's a Maisa about a person. Shenekrat Tzipor Nafsha means that what he loved most in life, what was most dear to him, was taken from him, was uprooted, was lost. Shenekrat Tzipor Nafsha, that which was most beloved and dear to him, was taken from him. And he was going in Meitzar, means he was crying and suffering, he was miserable. V'amar osim kates l'chayai, to the point that he said, I want to die. Ki toiv moisi mechayai, I'd rather die. I can't live without this. Whatever that is, that person, whatever it is that I can't live. But then he was thinking, he wanted to die, and he was thinking, I don't know, if I do that, it might be worse for me over there. What's going to be with me over there if I die? Like if I kill myself, what's going to be with me? So he decided not to kill himself. Since he believes this is a religious person, and he believes that everything's Mishamayim, and this is what Hashem did to me. That He took away from me, my grandfather, right? He took away from me what I love most. He took away from me this love of my life, and it comes from Hashem. He did that. So Ezra Kavanim b'Shamayim. I'm going to take rocks. I'm going to start throwing them. Start chucking rocks at Hashem. B'Zark Avanim b'Shamayim. He began to throw rocks at God. He saw that his life just became darker. Throwing rocks. Which means being angry. So suicide is out. Screaming and yelling and throwing things at God is out. V'amar harol v'nekra tzipa navshi. Since the love of my life was taken from me, so now he's thinking about the future. So what should I do? And how can I give myself life? Like, how can I live? So he's past that stage of ending things, and so now so what should I do? So he got up and he said, Rebbeinu Shalom, hala kol mimcha. Rebbeinu Shalom, everything is from you. And what I'm going through, it's from you. And you're good. And it must be therefore that everything is for the good, is for good. Okay, so I'm done with the suicide, and I'm done with the angry and throwing things at you and screaming and cursing and all that. So, but now, since you're the Rebbeinu Shalom, eich achai es atzmi. No. So now how should I live? How can I live without what I had? Just show me a sign so that I can go on living. A sign. So I could live. Now listen to this, Chaver, listen to this. Ready? Brace yourselves. He was answered from Hashem. Hashem told him the following. Shemayim told him the following. That which you think that the love of your life was taken from you, that tzipar hanefesh, meaning that which was most dear to you, to your soul, was taken from you. Adarabah, the opposite. Chazra elecha tzipar hanefesh. I just gave you back that which is dearest to your soul. Umashi pitsua v'ko'eves, and that your soul is pitsua. Was mean pitsua, wounded. V'ko'eves, and in pain. Tasem is at tefillas. Make it into tefillas. Because the tzipar hanefesh of a Jew is God. That's the tzipar hanefesh. There is no tzipar hanefesh that is greater than HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So turn this pain that you have into a tefillah. Omashi petsua v'ko'eves tasem is at tefillas. Tasem is at tefillas, davening, kirbas Hashem, tefillas. So that it ends the story and it says, V'holach v'hispalol harve. He went and he davened a lot. V'niye etzlo hamar mimoves, mosok midvash. And that which was more bitter than death became sweeter than honey. That's the end of the story. Something to think about. Tasem is at tefillas. Yeah, pitsua v'ko'eves. It hurts. Pitsua v'ko'eves. You have a choice. You could either lie there in that, want to kill yourself, spend the rest of your life throwing rocks at your parents or at God or whatever, your Rebbe. You could do that. That's your bechira. The other choice is la'alot, and to change this and to make this into tefillas. And then your life you will see in your life, you're not going to get back that which was lost. If it's not retrievable, somebody died, you can't. That's okay. But you will have a certain hischadshus and hiskarvus, which will be mosok midvash, which is the tachlis of our lives. We were sent here. It's the tachlis of our lives. It's that hischadshus and hiskarvus. Hashem should help that every Jew should be strong and healthy. There shouldn't really be any pain. But you see this. Right before I came in, one of the Chaver sent me a clip. And he has very, very good taste. I admit that I don't look at all of the things that I get, because then I wouldn't be able to do anything else with my life. And it's a very dumb way to spend your life looking at things. But this particular person is very, very, very careful, and I trust him. And it was he might be listening to this. I think he listens. There was a clip on. They were bringing back Israelis back there to Israel on one of these on a flight. They were bringing them back there to Israel. I don't know how, with what flight, what they were doing, but it was a flight back. People that needed it had to come home. They were just going back there to Israel, and the guy that walks up and down like with the drinks, the steward, whatever he's called, the guy stewardess, I don't know, a steward, I guess, the guy. So the Israeli guy, not from Israeli guy, goes walking around. He wraps himself in a flag, and he's going around singing songs of Emunah, and the whole plane. There are a few people that are from on the plane, but mostly not from plane. They're not from. They're all singing, like Odia Tetov, Hashem is Baruch. The whole plane is singing, and they're making this a sorrow into a tefillah. That's what we have to do. That's what we have to do. Everybody asks, what should we do? How do it? The chizik, what's going to be? And so I was asked to go someplace last night to give divrei chizik to the community, and I said I'm going to have a granddaughter graduating, and if I'm not going to go, I'm going to need a lot of chizik if I don't show up there. I'm not going to speak. I'm going to see my granddaughter graduate. Hopefully that will give her some chizik. To be mischazik and to give chizik is to change everything in your life into a tefillah. So I'm not able to go. So how can I make my granddaughter happy? When Zadie comes and gives a hug and says, "I'm proud of you," a little pinch on the cheek. Zehu. That's the shlichus for tonight. Nothing complicated. Not complicated. It's push. But how can God want you to do that more than to talk to a few hundred people? To give them this. I'm sharing with my machshava last night because I was troubled by this. You have to, whatever it is, any matzah that you're in, you make it into a tefillah. You say, Baruch Olam, I'm master of all worlds. I'm asking you to show me how can I take this difficulty or this disappointment, and how do I make it into something which could serve you and to get closer to you? A way of his carvers, getting closer to your function. How can I use this? And then what? The end is that which was Mami Movis is Mosik Midrash. The taste of death. This guy was about to kill himself. The taste of death becomes sweeter than honey. We should be zeichet to have a lot of honey.